Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namaha Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So Hare Krishna, dear Prabhujis, dear devotees, we are reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2 contents of the Gita summarized. And in our last session we read the 49th verse, now we are reading the 50th verse. So another very beautiful verse of Bhagavad Gita. Lord Shri Krishna, he continues his instructions, his teachings, and he says to Arjunji, Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujjasva yogaha karmashu kaushalam. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujjasva yogaha karmashu kaushalam. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujjasva yogaha karmashu kaushalam. So buddhi yuktaha, one who is engaged in devotional service. Jahati, can get rid of. Iha, in this life. Ubhe, in both. Sukrita dushkrite, in good and bad results. Tasmat, therefore, yogaya, for the sake of devotional service. Yogaya yujjasva. Yujjasva, be so engaged. Yogaha, Krishna consciousness. Karmashu, in all activities. Kaushalam, art. So very beautiful verse. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad actions even in this life. Therefore strive for yoga, O Arjuna, which is the art of all work. Therefore strive for yoga. A man engaged in devotional service, buddhi yukto, jahatiha, jahati, can get rid of. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad actions even in this life. Therefore strive for yoga, O Arjuna, which is the art of all work. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujjasva yogaha karmashu kaushalam. So in the purport, Swami Srila Prabhupada explains, since time immemorial each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Shri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. So very small purport, but so many concepts, transcendental concepts in this purport, and very beautiful, very important verse. Lord Shri Krishna, he is saying to Arjunji, Buddhi yukto jahatiha. Buddhi yukto, one who is engaged in devotional service. So in the previous verse, Lord Shri Krishna asked Arjunji, Buddhao sharanam anvichaha, desire to surrender completely to that consciousness. So if one is in Krishna consciousness, he will be engaged in devotional service. So buddhi yuktaha, one who has Krishna consciousness will be engaged in devotional service. Buddhi yuktaha. Jahati iha. Jahati, can get rid of. he can get rid of. So in the previous verse, Lord Shri Krishna says, Durena, get rid of. So who can get rid of? Buddhi Yukta, one who is engaged in devotional service, Jahati Iha. He can get rid of Iha in this life, can get rid even in this life, Ubhe in both, Sukrita, Dushkrite, in good and bad results. Good and bad results, one can get rid of all reactions, good and bad, all accumulated reactions of one's past deeds, actions. Therefore, Tasmat, so Lord Shri Krishna is asking Arjunji, Tasmat, therefore, Yogaya Yujjasva, engage yourself in Krishna consciousness in the sake of, for the sake of devotional service, Yogaya. Engage yourself in yoga, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. So again and again, all the, in continuation, the Lord Shri Krishna is asking Arjunji and is asking all of us through Arjunji to work in Krishna consciousness and get rid of all the fruitive reactions. Tasmad yogaya yujjasva yogaha karma kaushalam, and yogaha, Krishna consciousness, is karmashu kaushalam. In all activities, kaushalam, art, kaushalam, art. So Krishna consciousness is the real art of working. So a man engaged in devotional service, buddhi yuktaha, rids himself of both good and bad activities, jahati iha, ubhe sukrita dushkrite, both good and bad actions, even in this life. So one who is engaged in devotional service, buddhi yuktaha, one who is in Krishna consciousness and one who is engaged in activities of Krishna consciousness can get rid of. He can rid himself of both good and bad actions even in this life. Therefore strive. Lord Shri Krishna is saying, Tasmad yogaya yujjasva. Strive. Strive for yoga. And previously also Lord Krishna, he said, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. So again Lord Shri Krishna is saying, therefore strive for yoga, O Arjuna, which is the art of work. So Lord Shri Krishna is demanding Arjunji, and through Arjunji he is demanding all of us to work in Krishna consciousness. Strive for yoga, karma yoga, actions done for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. They are all auspicious. So in the beginning of the purport, Swami Srila Prabhupada says, from time immemorial, the living entities are in this material world. We do not know from how long we are here in this material world, from how long we are wandering in this material world, in the cycle of birth and death. How many lives? So time immemorial, it cannot be traced. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. So after many bahunam janmanam ante, one gets the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Jnanavan mam prapadyate. Only a person who understands Vasudevam Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sadurlabha. So such people are very rare. Those who get an opportunity to understand about the Supreme Brahman, because we have fallen in this material world with fruitive mentality, with material desires, so we really do not know. Brahmand Brahmite, another place it is said, Brahmand Brahmite in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Brahmand Brahmite kono bhagyavan jeev. So life after life we are engaged into activities as per the modes of material nature. Sometimes we engage in ourselves in good work, pious deeds, and we get promoted. And sometimes we engage in abominable actions, impious deeds, and we get demoted. So Brahmand Brahmite. Life after life we are changing bodies from one species to another species, sometimes up, sometimes down. In 14 planetary system, and from time immemorial it cannot be traced back from how long one is suffering, struggling very hard in this material world with material body, so it cannot be traced back. So from time immemorial each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work, and we really do not know how much reactions are stored in our account, reactions of actions done in the three modes of material nature, good and bad, and those reactions are again forcing us. The reactions of our past, the accumulated reactions of our past good and bad deeds are forcing us to again engage into such activities, life after life, life after life. And we are forgetful. Because of that we are completely ignorant. Swami Srila Prabhupada is explaining, one is completely ignorant of his constitutional identity. So this cycle of birth and death, this chain of action and reactions, so one is victimized, one become a victim. Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing in the purport, from many many life Brahmand Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jeev. One who is fortunate, he gets Bhakti Lata Beej. By good association, one gets a chance. By good association, by satsang, one develops Brahma Jigyasa, and one inquire about supreme transcendence. And if one is fortunate, if he gets Bhakti Lata Beej, seed of devotional service, then it is very very auspicious, as one can come out of the cycle of birth and death and get an eternal life. So from time immemorial, Bhavanam Janmanam Ante, and human birth gives an opportunity to every living entity to free himself from the cycle of birth and death. So since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. So mercifully, the Supreme Lord, he very well knows that after Dwapar Yuga, in the Kali Yuga, people will not have access to the Vedic literature. And one will not have access the Vedic literatures for Vedas, which mainly deal in fruitive actions and sacrifices and austerities to for the satisfaction of one's material desires. For Vedas, then Upanishad, 108 Upanishads, then Puranas, 18 Puranas, then Itihasas, Samhitas, history, Vedic history, Samhitas, compilations by great souls, Mahatmas. So it is very very difficult because people do not have time. The age is like that. Everything reduces. The age is the human age in this world, in this age of Kali, is very very less. 100 years at max, and we do not have time and energy and resources to understand the real meaning or the real purpose of the scriptures. So that's why the Supreme Lord mercifully, because he is very merciful, because he is compassionate, very very compassionate to all the living entities, All the living entities are his part and parcel, and he is the Supreme Father of every living entity. So, out of his compassion, because the living entities are struggling in this material world, so Father is also unhappy in one sense. Swami Srila Prabhupada explains that if there is a small pain in the little finger, then because of that pain, so Father want to see everyone happy. So the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna himself is giving these wonderful instructions of Bhagavad Gita to every living entity, especially in this age of Kali, because it was known to Lord Shri Krishna that after Dwapar Yuga, the Kali Yuga will begin, and in this age of Kali, everybody will be very much disturbed by his mind and senses, and most of the population will engage in fruitive activities, will never think of liberation, and will not have knowledge about soul and super soul, law of karma. So the Supreme Lord is speaking Bhagavad Gita. So one's ignorance can be removed by the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Shri Krishna in all respects. So in the forthcoming verses, in the last chapter, 18th chapter, the conclusive chapter, Lord Shri Krishna, there he demands Sarv Dharman Parityaja, Sarv Dharman, give up all other engagements. Sarv Dharman Parityaja, Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja. Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja. Lord Shri Krishna will request everyone to take his complete shelter, and taking his shelter means to work for his satisfaction. Because living entities are his part and parcel who are forgetful of their eternal identity, because they are bound in the cycle of birth and death, in the cycle of action and reactions, and they have lot of accumulated reactions of previous lives which are forcing all the living entities to engage again in those fruitive actions. So it is very, very difficult to come out of the cycle of birth and death. But Lord Shri Krishna, he himself will say as a conclusion in the 18th chapter, Sar Dharman Parityajam Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sar Papebhyo Mokshasyami. He assures that he will free everyone from all the accumulated reactions of one's work in this material world done under the modes of material nature for the satisfaction of material mind and senses, and thus one can get liberation. One can understand himself, one can understand his constitutional identity, self-realization, and one can understand his relationship with the Supreme and go back in his constitutional position full of knowledge, bliss. So, one's ignorance can be removed by the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender unto Lord Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth after birth. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. So not only Arjunji, Lord Shri Krishna in one way he is instructing and advising all of us to act in Krishna consciousness. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pad Sevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam, Dasyam. Understanding well that one's eternal constitutional position is servant of the Supreme Lord, one should only try to satisfy one's eternal Master, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Father, the Supreme Brahman. The living entities are part and parcel. The spirit soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, Super Soul. And all his works should be dedicated in Krishna consciousness. So yogaha tasmad yogaya yujyasva. Lord Shri Krishna is demanding not only to Arjunji. Tasmad, therefore, yogaya yujyasva. Therefore, engage in Krishna consciousness. Yogaya yujyasva. Yoga karmashu kaushalam. Yoga is the right way of doing work. Yoga means connection. So when one is connected, when soul and action in Krishna consciousness are done on the spiritual platform. So when on the spiritual platform, the soul is in connection, is in relation with the super soul, and soul or every living being in his constitutional position is working for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Their action in Krishna consciousness and are very, very auspicious, can free oneself from both, can rid oneself from the reactions of all his good and bad work. So since time immemorial, every living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad work. As such, he is continuously ignorant. All of us are continuously ignorant. We do not know our constitutional position. We are continuously ignorant because we are caught up in the cycle of birth and death, in the chain reaction of action and reactions, in the cycle of action and reaction. We are victimized. So Bhagavad Gita teaches one to surrender unto Lord Shri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the chained victimization of action and reaction, birth and death. So birth after birth. So man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad actions even in this life. Therefore strive for yoga. Buddhi yukto jahatiha. Buddhi yukto jahatiha. One can get rid of iha in this life. Even in this life. Ubhe. In both good and bad. So sukrita duskrite, in good and bad results. Tasmat, therefore, yogaya yujyasva, yogaha karmashu kaushalam. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad actions even in this life. Therefore strive for yoga, O Arjuna, which is the art of all work. So very, very beautiful verse and very beautiful purport. So many transcendental concepts, Krishna conscious concepts in this beautiful purport. So, therefore strive for yoga, O Arjuna, which is the art of all work. Yogaha karmashu kaushalam. So, I would like to stop here. In the next session, we will read another verse. Till then, Jai Vishnupad Paramhans Parivrajacharya Shrotrachat Shri Srimati Divine Grace Abhay Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ji ki Jai. All glories to His Divine Grace Krishna Kripa Murti Abhay Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Bhagavad Gita, all glories to Lord Krishna, all glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Holy Name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.